This is Fusebox number 97. Full exit. And you should remain seated until the show has come to a complete stop.
Yes, because there is a lot more turbulence forthcoming. Welcome in, friends, to this, the 97th edition of Fusebox, carefully entitled Full Exit. And I'm your borrowed on running time host, Mark Rose, thanking you most sincerely for pushing play on this edition of the program. And over there, already on vacation in his mind, but still very much present, is the curator of cues himself, Milt Keynes, everybody.
Thank you kindly. You know, I've been known to have a full exit once or twice in my life.
Well, you know, with your drink of choice being Yoo-Hoo and vodka, the only surprise is that it's been once or twice.
Oh, you'd be surprised at how many colors you can get with a Yoo-Hoo and vodka full exit.
I'm sure you are 137% correct, Mr. King. However, full exit actually refers to the action of taking one's leave fully, as it were, from this physical plane and onto the next great adventure, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I get you. Oh, and speaking about great new adventures, you know, I know we're still going on and on and on about this big 100th episode, but, you know, I think I may have the perfect solution for this one.
Do tell, sir.
Well, what about this? What about a whole show devoted to your musical hero, Frank Zappa? Now, I know you've been dying to wax on about the dude for, like, forever. So why not just go for it, man?
Well, in as much as I'd love to devote some time to Mr. Zappa's influence on, well, pretty much everything, in a way, you know, I've actually done that already on another program, and it's out there for anyone so interested in that diatribe.
You've been moonlighting somewhere, or
No. This was a program that is also heard on this very Overnightscape Underground channel, the Overnightscape Central, as it is known, and I believe that episode was number 345, entitled, not coincidentally, Zappa.
Yeah, but that was like a while ago, right?
Well, yeah, that's a little over a year ago. Back in July of 2017.
Yeah, well, look, I'm sure that by now you've had a chance to think of a bunch more stuff that you didn't have time to get to on that one, right?
So what's the real reason, Mr. Keynes? I mean, you for one would be completely uninterested in the minutia of Zappa, right?
Well, yeah, but, you know, I thought you'd really be able to just kind of handle that one all by yourself, you know? Just you. Waxing on, and on, and on, and on, and then maybe I could just take the day off.
What? What, are you serious?
Well, I mean, I figured I could take that time to have a root canal done is all.
Oh, well, I had no idea. I mean, are you in pain or?
Nah, it's fine. I actually don't need it. I could use the day off, though.
Okay, I see. Well, sorry to sabotage your imaginary holiday plans, but I don't think I'll be doing any Zappa soliloquies anytime soon. Just saying.
Shit. I mean, well, okay, all right, whatever. We still need to address this show 100 thing, though. I mean, you have noticed that this is show 97, right?
Of course. And I'm on it. Really. Truly am. Actually, I've been putting a list together of potential things that we were talking about at that meeting we had the other day over at Vinny's. And I think there were several good ideas on their list there that would be great.
Yeah? Well, I kind of don't remember that list. Come to think of it, that meeting at all. Vinny's, you say?
Yes, Mr. Keynes. We were at Vinny's. And you had several Yoo-Hoo and vodkas, I recall.
Oh, well, there you go. That may have been the same night I remember waking up standing in front of the open refrigerator without pants.
Yeah, that's just an image you can't unsee. Uh-huh.
Now available in plaid flavor.
And speaking of semi-dangling compulsions, here's a wonderful story for you. This news item coming from MSN courtesy of Fox News. I'm not sure what to do with that. But anyway, Ali Borgia, or Borgi, I am not sure how to mangle this poor chap's name, but we know he's 39, and we also know that he, taught at the University of Central Florida's Computer Science Department. And he was charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of stalking when he was arrested at his office. Investigators say Borgi started stalking a woman after they dated last June, watching her at the gym and messaging her, quote, "You should be happy that someone likes you this much to stalk you." They said at one point Borgi sent the woman 800 texts in a single day. Quoting the source here again, "Our detectives acted swiftly in this case, as the UCF Police Department does when anyone feels threatened." And that from UCF Deputy Police Chief Carl Metzger. The Orlando Sentinel reported that the woman said Borgi resumed stalking her this spring after she took a semester off to get away from him. She told police she saw Borgi following her in his car. The arrest affidavit filed with the court stated that Borgi acknowledged he made a mistake and he would apologize to the victim if she was standing in front of him. Before his arrest, Borgi tendered his resignation to UCF administrators. Jail records showed he was released on bail. They did not list an attorney.
800 text messages in a single day.
That's right. Now, if you're anything like me, after about the, 20th text, I might be inclined to ask myself, is this a little extreme right now?
And surely by the 50th you'd back off, right? I mean, was she even responding to these things?
I can't say. The article didn't reveal that bit. But for the love of pangolins, 750 texts later, you think you might have to acknowledge that there might be a little obsession going on here, right?
Hell, man, I wouldn't even know what to type after 51.
Well, Mr. Borgi appears to be quite verbose, and with any luck will develop some odd palsy and won't be able to thumb type anymore. However, it does beg the age-old and staggering quite badly question.
What the fuck, Florida?
So, sadly, friends, it's once again time to acknowledge the passing of a couple of folks recently who were certainly meaningful to me and countless others through time. The first chap was artist Steve Ditko, responsible for the co-creation of Marvel Comics characters Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, among others. Ditko's style was, if you've seen him ever, was unmistakable. And when I was growing up, reading his stuff, it was his work was always a favorite of mine, especially the Doctor Strange stuff, where he brought that phantasmagorical world of Doctor Strange to vivid life. He only stayed at Marvel, though, until, I guess, 1963, and then moved on to DC. And I think, if I remember correctly, he even did a little short stint at Charleston Comics and a few other places. Before I found him again, many years later, in the realm that I was most fascinated with at the time, the underground comics world, where he was doing, the thing I found was something called Mr. A and a series of other pretty cerebral comics as well.
Yeah, says here he was a follower of Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism.
Indeed. A lot of Ditko's personal work had those themes going on. And if you're not familiar with Ayn Rand's philosophy, quoting Ayn Rand now, a philosophy for living on Earth, grounded in reality, and aimed at defining human nature and the nature of the world in which we live. My philosophy, in essence, is the concept of man as a heroic being, with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity, and reason as his only absolute.
Well, that right there, that doesn't actually sound batshit crazy.
No, it's not. It actually has some value. But there are a few areas that, at least for me, seem to become just a wee contradictory. For one thing, I don't think, quote, reason, end quote, is really all that objective, or can be, you know? I mean, it's made up of countless momentary impulses, right? They're all being reconfigured at any given moment to arrive at some conclusion. Now, I wonder how this philosophy works in light of the recent discoveries in quantum physics, where 2 + 2 = 4,511. But we digress.
Well, you do.
But will they? But anyway, we were chatting about Steve Ditko, and I have to say, Mr. Ditko was a renowned recluse and stayed away from any public notoriety and for the most part was just sort of quiet. I had some personal experience with that, actually. Back in 1987, we were syndicating a radio series called Shriek Show for, at that time, mostly terrestrial radio stations across the globe. And one of the guys I was working with on the series suggested we try to get Steve Ditko to do the cover art for the show. Because, of course, if you could get someone, quote, known to help out, it would help with the show's identity and so forth. We also knew that Ditko he really hadn't done a lot of recent stuff at the time. And we had his phone number.
That must have made a big hit with him.
Well, I gotta say, he actually did not only pick up the phone, but he spoke to us and was actually very, very nice. But, of course, politely declined, as he said he wasn't doing commissioned work at that time.
Well, I've heard of cases where the guy was, really pissed off when people tried to contact him. I mean, almost psychotically PO'd,
Well, yeah, me too. And I think it was a documentary, or maybe the article was just so well written that it felt like it. But I read about this chap, maybe, who was trying to find him, Ditko. And which really wasn't, that hard. He didn't make an effort to hide or anything. He just never responded when folks came a-tapping at the door or phoned him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do, too.
I know this about you. So, a little touch with the random obscure greatness there, I guess. And he didn't hate us at all for trying.
You got him on his one good day that month.
Perhaps so. Gotta say, even though I don't think the recognition was all that crucial for him, but when Marvel Films finally acknowledged Ditko's involvement in the creation of Spider-Man, along with Stan Lee, they gave him a little screen credit there. That was a good day,
Hopefully he got more than nice typesetting for that one.
One would hope, but Marvel owned all the creative back in the day, and so the Steve Ditkos and the Jack Kirbys and the Johnny Romitas and others were not really seeing much back then past their paycheck at the end of the week.
I don't think Miss Rand would have approved of that idea.
I suppose it would have depended on what side of the capitalist fence you were on at the time. In objectivism, self-sacrificing for the betterment of all was considered a very bad idea. So Ditko would have bridled at that, and did, by leaving in 1963 for allegedly greener pastures. Of course, for the business, using the exact same philosophy, it was, quote, reasonable to want to maximize your profits by utilizing the talents of your employees.
See, this is why I've never had a real job.
Hello, Mrs. Johnson. Is Billy home?
Hi, Tommy. I'm afraid Billy's gone fishing with his father, Mr. Johnson. But please come in. I made cookies. Would you like to try my cookies, Tommy?
Oh boy, I sure would, Mrs. Johnson. I really like cookies. Billy always brags about your cookies.
Great, Tommy. Have a seat and enjoy my cookies. They're really hot, so be careful not to burn your tongue on my cookies.
Gosh, Mrs. Johnson, your cookies are so soft and moist. I could eat your cookies all day.
Thank you, Tommy. By the way, where did you get that great Fusebox t-shirt? It really shows off your arms. Have you been working out?
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. I buy Fusebox merchandise at thefuseboxshow.com. They have lots of really cool stuff. You should check it out and buy lots and lots of Fusebox stuff for Billy. Just click on the Fusebox store link and start shopping. It's that easy.
That does sound easy, Tommy. Thefuseboxshow.com, huh? Thank you. Say, Tommy, when you're done enjoying my cookies, maybe you'd like to stay and go for a swim in my pool.
Boy, would I. Thanks, Mrs. Johnson. May I have another cookie, please?
Of course, Tommy. Say, how would you like to make out with me before you go swimming?
I sure would, Mrs. Johnson. Gosh, you're the best.
Oh, Tommy.
Mrs. Johnson.
Way to go, Tommy. And remember, you can get your Fusebox merchandise at thefuseboxshow.com. Apply to infected area only. Batteries not included.
The show for everybody, but not everybody will like it. Thefuseboxshow.com.
I'd appreciate it like hell if you'd introduce me. I mean, there may be someone out there. You said there were blind people out there. They won't know who I am.
Harlan Ellison. Harlan Ellison, this is Mel Gilda.
I've heard so little about you, yeah. Good evening, this is Hour 25, and this evening we're going to be bringing you something very special, all the way from Florida. Back in March, I was down in Florida doing some work for the ERA, and among the, what I thought were to be interviews, was a request from two guys named Bob Cannon and Mark Rose, who were over in St. Petersburg. And they said, would you come across the causeway from Tampa and We broadcast on a station in Tampa and St. Petersburg, and we'd like to meet you. So I thought it was an interview about the ERA, and since I was down there doing so many of them, I was at their disposal. I said, fine. Get over there, and I find out beautiful house they had, and the house is just up to its ears in electronic equipment, plus all of these strange models of what looks like alien architecture and peculiar characters. Now, what the devil is going on here? Well, what was going on there is that these two young guys, 24 years old each, Mark Rose and Bob Cannon, have for the last 2 years been doing a series of radio drama broadcasts under the general title Dry Smoke and Whispers. And what it is a science fiction hard-boiled detective series placed in a mythical universe on a mythical planet called Quemet. And their hero is the electronics wizard Emil Song. And I listened to a part of one of the tapes and was just knocked out. The stuff was so professional and so well done. And I then learned that Mark himself had done 148 different voices of characters, male, female, aliens, all kinds of strange things. They had a huge electronic rig. They had synthesizers of all sorts. And he wrote all the music for it. The whole thing was done there, and they had syndicated it all over the country. They'd even got a National Endowment grant to do it. And it had become a huge sensation in South Florida, and I said, they got to hear this in L.A. They've just got to hear this. So I did my column on it this week, and I hope that people who read the column are listening tonight, and for those who didn't see the column, this will come as, I think, a wonderful surprise. And if the people who listen to it like it, to get and obtain this series, and there's many, many more. Each show runs 3 segments of about 25 minutes each. If the listeners like it, Michael has told me that he will undertake through the station, through KPFK, to get this series, Dry Smoke and Whispers, which could become a part of this show or be broadcast separately. And it's astonishing stuff, as you will hear. And we're going to play, I gather you're going to play the first section.
We're going to play part 1, and then we'll talk for a couple of minutes, and then possibly give you the rest. But let's give you a good idea now of Dry Smoke and Whispers. And I will say that if you are a fan of science fiction radio drama, don't go anywhere for the next 25 minutes. But then I bet about 2 minutes in, you won't be able to. All right, here it is, Dry Smoke and Whispers.
Folks, that little piece of historical audio footage came from a program called Hour 25 on KPFK in Los Angeles on August 22nd, 1982. Orchestrated entirely by the speculative fiction author Harlan Ellison, who just left this mortal coil just a few short days ago. Some may know that name as the fellow who wrote an award-winning story for Star Trek back in the day, City on the Edge of Forever, or maybe Demon with a Glass Hand for Outer Limits, or Soldier, or a couple of other things for that show, as well as becoming a creative consultant for series like The New Twilight Zone and Babylon 5. Also, Ellison was hired as a writer for Walt Disney Studios, but was fired on his first day. Actually, within 3 hours after Roy Disney overheard him in the studio commissary joking about making a pornographic animated film featuring Disney characters. Yeah, not good. No, seriously, his reputation for not suffering fools, especially network executives and publishers, is really, really well documented, and mostly by himself. There is this story that's been filtering around, and that Harlan, nearly punched TV producer Irwin Allen out of his 30th floor office window.
Definitely my kind of guy.
But as you heard in that clip, dear Harlan came to town when we were working on the Dry Smoke and Whisper series for a local public radio station in Tampa, WMNF, who had actually arranged to have him there for other reasons, the ERA thing. But being the budding opportunists that we were, we took full advantage of that situation. Now, both Rob and I seriously only knew Harlan as a gracious and generous guy who was honestly jazzed about what we were doing down there in Florida and thought others might get a kick too. So, after he visited us, he went back to L.A. and wrote an article for the L.A. Weekly that started things rolling, which, by the way, you can read that article in his book called An Edge in My Voice, which is still available out there, and collects some of his writings for that paper in one volume. And in turn, he made good on his promise, as did the late Mike Hodel from KPFK's Hour 25, who promptly arranged for the airing of all of our current catalog at that time. It was an amazing time for two young guys stuck in the F place, pumping out radio drama in a time that was sort of unfriendly to long-form programming, but certainly not as unfriendly as now, of course. He was really the right voice to be hearing at that time, and to be having our humble show airing on the same station that launched the Firesign Theater was, of course, pretty damn cool, I gotta say. I actually do have that entire interview, and there's a moment after they play a couple of episodes, they actually phoned Rob and I in Florida. And at some point, I might even play that whole thing, because it is a little nostalgic.
So, did you ever get out there?
What, to L.A.?
Yeah.
No, sadly we didn't, but we did get the radio series into about 50 markets before we stopped producing that show. It's currently available on audible.com if anyone is interested in hearing what all that noise was about back then. The series is called Dry Smoke and Whispers Radio Theater. And we have the first season that Harlan was a big fan of, as well as the follow-up series that came out years later, like 2004, I think. But they're all out there for your dining and dancing amusement. But Harlan is an amazingly innovative writer who was always incensed when anyone called him a science fiction writer, as he clearly went well beyond the boundaries of that category. He also felt that that category was too limiting for virtually any writer who wasn't specifically writing science fiction, like, the Asimovs or the Clarks or so forth. And for those interested, I'd recommend some books, Deathbird Stories or Gentleman Junkie, or I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which I think has actually been adapted into a video game. Or one of my personal favorite collections, Love Ain't Nothing But Sex Misspelled. The list is pretty endless. And he's also one of the most decorated writers, period. I mean, he's won just about any award possible across all genres and in whatever category the award is based. I know that the first time I read a book by Ellison, I knew that I was in a very, very new place, and his intros to stories are as entertaining as the story itself many times. He did two collections of essays on TV that was released in the late 70s called The Glass Teat and The Other Glass Teat, that are, at many times, I swear to you, laugh out loud funny, because, as I mentioned, some of his setups of the story or the essay were incredible journeys all by themselves. And, I mean, you really got a sense of Harlan as a person in his intros, because he wouldn't sugarcoat anything. But as we found out, as many before us had, when he liked and respected what someone was doing, he was a tornado of encouragement and inspiration. And I don't see a lot of that today in our present world.
Everybody's a YouTube star these days.
Or a podcaster.
Yeah, or a podcaster.
Well, friends, with that fond farewell to Steve Ditko and Harlan Ellison, we'll call it a show, but not before being most grateful for the loquacity of our contributors. Laura Dine, Nico Lane, Jody Lorimer, Jeff Pollard, and Joshua Willis. Yes, but also to the grand folks at KPFK Los Angeles, wherever you are, and in particular to the memories of Mike Hodell from the Hour 25 program and the one-of-a-kind Harlan Ellison for making this journey an unforgettable one. And, as always, to the flying fader fingers of Milt Keynes for technical assistant.
Well, pleasure's always, amigo. And seriously, man, give that Zappa monologue some real thought. I'm sure our audience would love it.
If by love it, you mean like slamming your hand in a piano several times? Yeah. Alas, not. Thanks, of course, to you, friends, for bravely pushing play and knowing not what the hell you might hear. We are most grateful for your presence, and I have been your smoking more but enjoying it less host, Mark Rose, saying, until our next cartoon.
Fuse.